And I'm going to share my screen just to get us started, and then we'll have folks start sharing their stuff. So as I said, today is Google Club Meeting 8, and it's our show and tell version. I put the link to the slides, but the slides are very minimal this time. So the slides are in the chat. A reminder that you can access lots of stuff through DYCD Connect. So the announcements and message board show you all the different workshops and things that are available. I think we have a few more workshops before the end of the fiscal year, and then there'll be a break for a couple of months. So check that out. I will share this link. So I will send you all an email following up today, including this reminder for signing up for our last session on June 25th. And we're going to go right into our show and tell, and then if people have questions, we'll take some time to listen to those. So Marika, I have you first because you signed in there. Let me go ahead and stop sharing. Oopsie. Okay. So
Okay,
Marika,
so
yeah.
I can share, right? I
Yeah.
can share.
Yes.
Um, oh, that's interesting. Let's just see, maybe. Um, why am I having
Is it
issues
not
here?
showing you yet?
No, but it's weird because it's like okay, oh, maybe share. Maybe I'm not
There you
sharing. Oh,
go.
okay, sorry. Yeah,
Oh,
I
all
want to
good.
share here. Okay.
Yay.
All right, yes. Just a little technical issues here. Okay. All right. All right. All right. So, I'm going to talk about Google Slides. So, can you see? Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay.
Yes, looks great.
Okay, so this is a very basic one, and I do that with my beginner class, but I also do it with my intermediate class because I want everyone to know how to use Google Slides. So for the beginners this session, I didn't have them do this until the end, because I had them share family photos through my email, and then they talked about their families with my email. So towards the end, I had them do this because I always want them to learn a little bit about Google Slides. So here's like the title slide. And then I have the instructions. I am from, name of your country. I am adjective of your country. I have the number of siblings you have. I live in Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan, Staten Island, upstate New York, New Jersey, or other. I live with my family, with friends, or by myself. I am, and so there's a link to a personality adjective. There's one slide that's locked. Yeah, this is the locked slide because sometimes um, they do kind of mess up the slides, and that's an issue. So I have a lock slide, and I have this one where they can go to the links, but I usually send them the links also. So this is like for they have to choose a personality adjective. Yeah, open the link. Sorry. All right, then let me go back. And then they had to write a place they would like to visit in New York City. So place to visit in New York City, another link. And then they also had to add a flag of their country. So that was for my beginners. So they did that. They did that. I had one as an example uh, of mine. Okay, and then they all added their slides and read their slides. So that was, a beginner thing. For my intermediate students, I had them also do that just so that they would know how to use Google Slides. But this semester we read Who Was Harriet Tubman? And I sometimes had trouble getting them to buy the book or borrow it from the library. There weren't that many copies. So actually on YouTube, I decided to record every chapter. So on YouTube, I recorded all the chapters and they could either just read. So it was on a Kindle. Let me just see where my content here. Yeah, here. Um, so um, I had the Kindle version of Who Was Harriet Tubman. So I would record each chapter and I would tell them they could either just read it on the Kindle, um, or or listen to my recording of it, my unprofessional recording. So here, yeah. So that's what we did in my intermediate class. And then as a project at the end of the session, I had them choose a famous American, a biography of a famous American, and it had to be a dead person. And I gave them a list to choose from. So here, how to complete the biography. I gave them the list to choose from. And I had it by category, so activists or artists or entrepreneurs or explorer or musicians or scientists. Um, so they had to choose from those categories. Initially, I wanted them to use the Queens Public Library data research. Um, I showed them how to use it and everything, but the problem was that many of them just didn't have regular cards. I did show them how to, you can get an e-card, and with an e-card, you can do it. And I showed them like the Britannica School um, and how to use it. I used the middle. And then I had an example with Rosa Parks or something. I forget where, here, maybe John Lewis. And I thought this was great because it had like and all this introduction, early life civil rights leader honors, and you could listen to it in addition to reading it. You could send the email of the information. You could print the information. You could save the information. You could translate the information. One of my students pointed out, which was true, that, why use translation? Because I want them to think in English. So that was a good point. But I ended up not using the Britannica School on the Queens Public Library website because even though it was free, if they had a library card, some of them didn't get it, didn't have a library card. So I ended up just using a website that is for kids, but it's not so bad. I mean, it is for kids, but I don't know if you know this one, it's called Ducksters. So we use that biographies, ducksters.com biography. So I showed them how to use it, and I used it with Rosa Parks. So I showed them how to use it with Rosa Parks as an example. Um, we went through this. I also made a video showing them all this information just with Rosa Parks, and then I added that information about Rosa Parks as an example. So let me show you here. Yeah, biographies of famous Americans by Intermediate Queens Library Spring 2025 class. What I wanted them, the instructions, what they had to include, not that much, but still. Some of my slides were locked because I didn't want them to mess up the slides. And then I had my example with Rosa Parks. And they could copy and paste a lot of the information because I thought there was so much information, even for this website for kids, that just choosing the information and being judicious and not adding too much information was already a challenge. So I wasn't picky about them copying and pasting it. So that was my example. Then inserting the photos. And then they did an incredible job. So let me just show you. I could just slideshow. I'll just show you because it was fantastic. So can you see? Or maybe, yeah. So Stella did it on Ida B. Wells. She added pictures. Karina did it on Neil Armstrong. Fernanda did it on John D. Rockefeller, and she added a video hyperlink. Anna did it on Thomas Edison, and I think in her country, in Cuba, she was a microbiologist, so she had all these hyperlinks. Oh my God, she had so much information, all these hyperlinks. Lorianne was on Susan B. Anthony. Rosa did it on Alexander Graham Bell. Yeah, so Ronnie Toussaint had a little bit of trouble because I don't think he had ever done Google Slides before. And he hadn't added a picture, and I almost was tempted to add some information, but I decided to leave it the way he had it. And emailed him after giving him his certificate of attendance when he had finished the class. And I said, you know, if you watch my video, I think you could add a picture of Frederick Douglass. So he did. So I was really happy about that. And then I think I did add some. And then Juliana did it on Martin Luther King. Victoria did it on Steve Jobs. But anyway, so yep. So that's the end of that presentation. Um, and for the Google Slides for the homework, both for the biographies and for the very basic slides, I did make videos showing them how to use the slides and how to complete the homework. And okay, and I think that's it. So if anyone has questions or
So I immediately have a question.
okay.
So they're working on these on their phones, or do they have access to
Some students were had computers, laptops, and some did not. So I made a video both on for each level for the basic slides and the biography slides. I made a video of how to do it on your computer and how to do it on your phone.
Amazing. And did everybody already have a Google account, or was that part of the work?
Most of them had Google accounts, but of course, for the Google Slides, if they were doing it on their phone, I asked them to download the Google app, Google Slide app, because it's much more difficult without the Google app, the Google Slide app.
Fantastic. Anybody else? Any questions for Marika?
And I really loved what they did with the biographies because we had done Who Was Harriet Tubman, and so a lot of them did ones on an activist, and I didn't force them to do it on an activist, but it was great.
Naeem, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about the students' digital skills at the very beginning of the cycle when you can start your classes and how you end up like with this great work and they're beginners.
Well, no, this was the high intermediate, Naima. The
Oh,
biographies,
okay.
yeah, that was the high intermediate. A lot of them, Naima, were young, so I suspect that they
Okay.
already had. No, yeah.
Mm,
So this was the high intermediate. For the
right.
basic one where they just talk about, their, they have their name, their country. Some of them were able to do it very, and you could tell that maybe they had been professional in their country, like, let's just see, Jaime clearly, I think maybe, had a professional job where he was able to do, a PowerPoint or Google Slides. It came very naturally to him. Others had more trouble. And since Naima, since with the Queen's Library, we have to test them at the end of the cycle. For some of them, I would take advantage of, since I had to test them individually, helping them a little bit with that, with their
That's a good idea. Thank you.
but for me, it's like for me, even for beginners, I think it's great to have this because I feel like it's kind of like a memento of our class. Oh, all these students were in our class, including me, what I wrote. So it's just kind of a little memento. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
And Marika, I know you've done this now like for a couple of years, would you say?
Yeah.
You've done this with a few different classes?
I've done different things. So the biographies were the first time I was doing it, and I was a little overwhelmed. That's why I consulted with the Queen's Library. I said, I should use the contact your librarian. But they were giving me data research, with
Quite low.
people who had library cards.
Yeah.
But yes, in the past I've done states because last year with the election, they had to research a U.S. state, so different things. Yeah.
Fantastic. Do you feel like you learned from trying it out?
Oh,
and trying a few
absolutely,
different things? Yeah.
absolutely. For the biographies, like, yeah, it was a little tough for me in the beginning. So yeah, no, I feel like I learned a lot. Yeah.
Well, I think it's an
Yeah.
amazing example. Like I often tell folks, like you can do a lot of Google things on phones, but I wouldn't touch slides. And then I always have Marika's stories now to make me feel like it's possible to
It's not
do.
so hard. It's not so hard. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's a really, one of the things I think is true for a lot of our learners, as well as for all of us perhaps is that we're willing to do things on our phones now that we would have in the past maybe actually got up and gone to a computer to do, but the phone is right beside you. So why not do it right there, as well as maybe you only have a phone and you don't have access to other devices. But I'm very interested in this idea of digital skill practice on a phone, not just the mobile phone skills, but the actual things like this, which, you know, here we have not only the actual digital skills of creating this content, but the content itself and knowing where to go find stuff so that they can look stuff up. You know, that's pretty amazing.
And
Yeah.
just in the last couple of years, Nell, you know, in the past, I would try to research, you know, a video on how to use your Google Slides on your phone, and I would find very few examples. But even in the last 2 or 3 years, there are many more examples. So I usually also include an example of how to use Google Slides on your phone from a more professional video, and then mine just to say, this is what you have to do for homework, and this is what you have to do on Google Slides on your phone.
And I love that too, that you're supporting this so that they're doing a lot of this work at home, but they have your video and the videos that you curated for them to get the support they need. Yes, Francis, I agree with you. My eyes are not what they used to be either. But again, it's a weird thing with the phone screen because in some ways it's like it's so I don't know. It's interesting. Maybe it's something for us all to try, make our own slides on our phones. But you do, just so you know, if you have Google Drive on your phone, you can look at slides. But if you are trying to create them, you do, I think, have to have the app, or at least that was my experience before.
It's
Marika.
easier. It's easier with the app. I
Right.
mean, because they're group Google Slides that I'm sharing that I've, you know,
Yes.
made. You
Yes.
can do
Oh,
it
I
with
see.
that.
So they could go in and edit the ones.
Yes, they could do it, but it's harder. It's harder.
Right.
Yeah.
So there is a specific, each of the Google tools has its own app. And if you're really going to use them, it's recommended to get the app for that particular tool. Excellent. So Jessica Lynn says she's joining with a laptop. Fantastic. Anybody else? Questions for Marika?
If I could just add, hold on here. I'm missing my, okay, here. If I could just add, like, you know, you guys were mentioning, I think that the more that you interact with like Google Slides or any of the tools on Google, I think that the more that we interact with them, with the tools, the more we learn. Because like I remember doing a slide like this a couple of years ago, and then slowly but surely I learned how to do like kind of like a drag and drop kind of activity with these slides. I didn't have much success with it, I will admit, because it takes some time to teach the students, apart from just teaching them ESL, like, you know, teaching them their, you know, ESL content and teaching them. You also have to kind of find a way to, I guess, fuse the two. And we have open admissions, so if we try to find at least one class at the end of the month, the way you conduct your Google workshop, what we try to do is give them a digital class at the end of each month, you know, involving some of the content, because we're big believers in Adobe Fill and Sign. If they can use Adobe Fill and Sign, we give them like a short tutorial on Adobe Fill and Sign, because we use a lot to teach this, and I'll discuss more of that in my presentation at the end. But like you said, Marika, it's like, if you're not, you know, presenting this kind of content to them and to yourself, you won't get better at it. And it's important, I think, especially now that mostly everything's gone digital, if not artificial. So synthetic content is here to stay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good skill to know, you know, even superficially. I think it's a good thing. And they're proud of themselves when they can do it.
Yeah, totally.
I think you're muted now. You're muted.
Thank you. And I see Jessica Lynn, you have a question. I just want to say, I also feel like, Marika, you've stretched yourself. Like, I know the first time you did
Yeah, I
this,
learned a lot. I learned a lot.
and I think that's a great lesson for us, because it's not going to work, you know, smoothly the first time, you know, but we can learn from one another. And then as you do it more, you will also figure out the parts that really work well together. Jessica Lynn, what was your question? Comment.
Hi, so I really wanted, this is my first Google Club, and I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. And I've always wanted to join the club, and actively teaching until 5, 6 o'clock. So today I was out early so I could join with you guys. But I wanted to drop I am work readiness instructor with AHRC, Advance and Earn. So in my curriculum, I have to teach them digital literacy, financial literacy, and work skills. And
Parentheses there.
so I wanted to drop a link that I have my students do. It's called the Applied Digital Skills with Google. So the ones that don't understand how to do something, or they don't understand how I'm teaching it step by step, and they just are more of a visual learner, I put them on this, and it helps them. It really does. And it covers all of the slides, how to teach the slides, how to do certain slides, decks, Google Docs teaches them, sheets. It does like a whole bunch for them that they can't get from me, or I just don't know how to explain it. So it's more a visual learner for them, and I do all of this for them. So I just wanted to share that.
You're making Nell very happy because she talks about applied digital skills all the time.
Yes, we just finished up doing a whole Google Slides presentation. They have to do their research. They have to give me their citations in APA format, and I let them choose what they want to research. So, and they have to do it a presentation for public speaking. So it covers digital literacy. It covers a lot of skills for them. So I just wanted to share that with you guys.
That is fantastic. Yes, and it's great to hear how you're using it, because Applied Digital Skills, I think, is a really rich resource, but I've not heard a lot of teachers using it directly with learners. I've heard it more teachers learning for themselves and then kind of taking parts of it and sharing it with learners. So that's fantastic to hear that it's worked for you. Excellent. Well, so thank you, Marika. And folks, you can always
you're welcome. I'll stop and share.
you can always reach out to Marika too if if something she said you want to talk to her offline, or you can direct message her here. But it's always very inspiring to see what you're doing with your Google slides there. So our next person is Sarah. Do you want to talk next?
Okay. My presentation is very, very basic because I don't have a lot of digital skills, and nothing feels very intuitive for me. So what I'm going to share is some things that helped me. So can I share the screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So the first thing is, for me, this right here. And this is so basic, but for me, learning about this was really important, and figuring out how to get to where I needed to get to. And when I first was using this, before I took the Google Club classes, this for docs was in way down here, right? Even though docs was one that I used all the time, I didn't know that you could change things around. Like I could move, if I used Gmail more, I could put it up there. But anyway, I learned that I could move things around. For example, Sheets I use a lot, and Docs I use a lot. I'm going to move this over. Yeah. And the Drive is what I want to talk about today. So I'm going to go into my Drive. And again, I want to say that there was a lot I didn't understand about this. And I'm learning. Okay. So I have to submit my lesson plans every week, and I work within two different programs. There's a DYCD class, and then I also teach a class for ONA. And in the past, when I had to put them in submit my lesson plans. It was honestly, I was just kind of randomly trying to figure it out. Like I didn't understand the difference between my drive and shared with me. Anyway, now I know. And for example, in my drive, I have the DYCD folders. Let's see if I can go here. Yeah, okay, folders. All right. So you can see I've got all these different like lesson plan things, and I would have to kind of look and read and see. And then I learned in the Google Club that I can make it colored. So this one that's blue, this is January to June 2025. So this is the one I'm always going to want to look for. And the way that I made a color was I clicked on here. Oh, let's see what's going on. Well, no, wait, hold on. I'm going to go back. Yeah, okay. Click on there. I don't know why it's not coming up. Maybe I'll try this
Are you
one.
able to right and left click?
Yeah. Okay, here I've got it. Okay. So I go to organize, right? And I choose a color. I'll change it to this one now. Okay. And then I can have my folder in color. And that way, right away, I can find it. Same thing here with this one. This is my level 4 class, January to June 2025. And then for my own class, I learned, okay, that's actually shared with me, right? Somebody else made the folder for me. Again, this is something that I had to learn. Again, I go into folders and I've got it in green so I can see right away because I've got all these other lesson plan things from different years. And so this makes it much easier for me to find. And yeah. Okay, so that's my share. I know it's not really, it's very basic, but it's been really helpful for me to have my understand better my files and how to get to them faster and kind of to show you how like ignorant a person can be because that would be me and there's so much for me to learn, but I'm learning, so yeah, that's all I have. Any questions?
So Sarah, I think that's amazing. Like I think this is the key to me about learning anything, for me at least with tech. It's like figuring out what is it that I want to learn and then getting that piece of information. And a big piece of this, and for learners as well as for you all, is that feeling of confidence, right? That what the thing that you know how to do. I mean, this is why when you brought up at the beginning the issue with the shared link not working the way that you thought it would, that's always very alarming, right? Because we think we figured out something and then it doesn't work the way we expect to. The first idea probably is that we did something wrong, and sometimes it is something that we did wrong, and sometimes it's just a quirk of the technology, or it is you just have to come up with a different way to do things. So I love this. And I'm one like you where I use color to pull out so I can look at my long list of things and quickly pull out the things that are most urgent. And then I'm very happy to change the color back or whatever. Here's a question for everybody. When Sarah changes the color, so this is a shared folder that she's showing us right now, lesson plans, and she turned it green. The person who shared it with her, does their folder turn green?
No.
It doesn't. So you can feel free to change folders whatever color you want to, and the person who's sharing with you they can change it to whatever color they want to. You're separate. The color is purely in your view. That's important because you might think that you're sharing a folder with your learners that is green and tell them to look for the green folder, and they're not going to see it. until they turn it green. So it is something to be aware of, that you can, that whole section about organizing, those are all things you can do that other people don't see. So they're for you to organize. They don't impact other people, but they also don't impact other people. Gary, yes.
So Sarah, if you think you sound basic, I'm going to sound very basic. I don't get this. So who shared this with you? I don't understand the terminology shared with me. Like, how could you share with yourself? I mean,
Well, so when my coordinator for the ONA program sends me this file, it's shared. It's called Learn in English is what they use, and so that other person set that up for me.
okay, so that was set up by somebody else
Yeah,
originally. Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Whereas the ones for my DYCD lesson plans, I set that up, but I also share it with the same organization, Learn in English. So it's still shared, but I set it up.
So either they set it up or you set it up, and then
Right.
then it would categorize as shared with me
Yeah.
in both cases.
No. My drive, it's mine. Okay.
Okay.
The shared with me was set up by somebody else.
Okay.
But I am sharing in my drive. It's going to the same people that the shared with me lesson plans are going to.
So those other people are going to see it in their shared with me.
Yeah.
I like what you said, Sarah. So the things that are in my drive are the things that I created, and I can share them with other people, but they're going to show for me in my drive. The shared with me, somebody else created and then sent me a link. So for example, today I put the link to our slides in the chat. If you click on that, after we leave today, if you go back to your shared with me, you're going to see those slides in there, because once you've opened something that someone has given you a link to, it will sit in there. The problem with shared with me is it's chronological usually. So over time, this can get quite, if you're trying to get back to something that someone shared with you a month ago and you get a lot of things shared with you, then that's going to fall down in this list quite low. But using this color technique is actually quite helpful way to come back to that, because you could scroll down very quickly and find that green folder. Does that make sense? So for you, Gary, this is I think this is a really important piece, right? So my drive is where you create your stuff.
Right.
And Sarah, if you click on my drive right now,
Yeah.
when we see her folders, you'll see that some folders have little people in them and some don't. So you see those top, the DYCD one has a little person in the folder image. But if we go down to exercises for foundational level 1, the folder is not got a person in it. Do you see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
So all those are shared. The ones
The ones with the little people, she has shared with other people. So she made it. She's the owner, but she shared it with other people.
Okay.
The ones that don't have little people in them, she made those, but she didn't share those with anybody.
She didn't share it. Okay.
Yeah. And you can go in and you can't take away when you share something with somebody else. The one benefit of using, so there's two ways to share. One is to send it to their email if they have a Google account. And the bonus of that one is that you can be very individual, right? So I can give you read-only access. I could give Sarah edit access, and I could take it away again. But if you get the link from the lower part, and I'll show you in a moment, again, we'll review that piece. But if you take the link and you share it like I did in the chat, then I can't take that away from you. I can change the level of access, but I can't stop you from having that link. So that's just something to know. That's one. I prefer to share the link this way, and I don't mind if you always have access to it. The one workaround I've ever come up with, if I had something that I made a terrible mistake in and I wanted to completely delete it, I can put it in the trash and then empty my trash, and you'll no longer have access to it. But that's extra information. Does that feel a little bit more clear for you, Gary?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Sarah. Anybody else? Questions or comments for Sarah, or any other tips for sorting your drive?
Okay.
Numbers are more
I love the
important, right?
colors. Sorry, Marika. Sorry.
Just have a question. Like, so numbers are more important, right? So if you put a number, that's more important than a letter, right? In
Right.
terms
The
of grading.
hierarchy, yes, the hierarchy, when you looked at your drive, then it was sorted by the name of the folder and then all the files underneath. So it's going to be alphabetical, either A to Z or Z through A, but numbers trump that, or they're the first element in the hierarchy. So yes, my technique has been to put like the number 1 in front of the name temporarily so that it's at the top of my drive. I have a lot of stuff in my drive, and I've been really sloppy with my star drive, star folder, which is kind of what Google created as a way of temporarily bringing things to the top. And because that's so terrible, I can't even deal with it. I came up with my technique for using numbers. But yes, numbers will come above the letter A. Lauren, were you going to ask a question?
Oh no, I was saying I love the idea. I love color coding.
Yeah.
But my cheat sheet for finding things, like I also have a lot of things like you, and I'm using a lot of old slideshows that I've made from other classes. So if with the titles that I put in there, I'll look that up that way. But my cheat sheet is to use my phone. So I'll check for the slideshow in my phone in the Google Drive, and then go to my computer, because the most recent thing that I opened up, will be there. And sometimes I'm using the computer, like I teach at the library, and I have to use the Google slide. It's a Google slideshow. The We Speak lessons are now in that. And so I can't go on the computer to find what I want, but I might want to show something else. I'll just cheat, open my phone, find it in there, and then go immediately to, okay, let me click one slide, and it's already there at the top. So it's just a little cheat sheet. But I love that. I didn't know I could use numbers as a quick way to, access my work. So that's even better.
Yes. So one more tip in the same vein. So what you were just saying about like surfacing it in your phone and then being able to find it again more easily when you come back to your drive. So this is my drive. So you'll see, right? These have all got numbers at the beginning, because that way they're all above the fold. We call that above the fold when you don't have to scroll down. So I don't have to scroll down to get to things, even if they start with the letter N. And then when I'm done using them, I go in and rename them, and I take out the number, and then they go back into the alphabet. So that's my cheating way, because if you looked at my starred, what Google thought they created for you was that you could star things and then they would just show up in your starred folder. But that only is helpful if you've been really good at cleaning out your starred folder, which I have not been. So then it's really messy. So maybe that's my summer project, is to clear out my star folder. Another thing, if you're looking for a specific kind of file, so you made a Google form that you used with your learners last year, and you cannot remember the name of it, and you cannot find the folder that it's in. One thing you can do, that technique we've talked before about getting to the specific file type, where we type in, for example, forms.google.com. This will show me all my forms. And so it's one other technique. This issue of trying to find something is always a problem. Like most of the time we might have really good systems, and every now and then they fall apart. So this is another way that I've gotten back to something that I couldn't find. I couldn't remember the name of. I used it 10 years ago. This is a little easier for me to look through than to open a bunch of folders and find stuff. So you can do this for any of the different file types. So the folders are like folders in our filing cabinet, and inside the folder we have files, and the file types are docs, sheets, slides, I guess websites are technically there, so, and forms. So you can do this for any of those tools in case you ever wanted to look at all the slides you've ever made, right? So if I go in here now and I change this to slides.google.com, now I see all my slides, and they're going to be there alphabetically, but it might be a little easier to find things than just going through your regular drive. So that's my one other tip. All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. That was really fantastic. Because really that is like the base of everything, to feel like you can go find the thing you want to find. So very impressive. Okay, let's see who's next on my list. Naima, are you able to tell us a little bit about what you've been doing?
Sure. So basically I use Google Docs like all the time, like in every session, for everything. But also I use Google Classroom, we use YouTube videos and kind of play them the slow mode. And since I don't have like the membership, I just try like to find short, videos, YouTube videos that would be like very easy for my students to kind of review and revisit all the time. Yeah, so for example, here's an example. Can I share? Let me see if I can share.
You should be able to share, Naima.
Oh, can you see my document here? You see it?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, this is like a sample of what I present to students in the class, right? And I have all these hyperlinks, and then I post it on Google Classroom, and when students want to review, they just go, for example, and they were gonna click here, and they're gonna be in Cambridge, or they can go here and do Quizlet. So basically, this is something that they start the class with, and we kind of, go over class norms. This is for beginner level, and then we start with the question of the day. But as we progress towards, the end of the cycle, we kind of, make students like get kind of used to find what they want within the Google Classroom. And of course, if they need help, we help them. So basically here in Google Classroom, I organize like everything. I share all topics by like here's our agenda. If they're looking for this, or like they're looking to do for homework or writing assignments. Yeah, we also like at this center, we provide a digital class where students like come for 2 hours a week and work on their digital skills, right? You could see here that some of them, like, we have like so many students here, like 26 or, and then, yeah. So I actually didn't use Google Forms that much. I used it probably once or twice just to kind of for poll, like we were like trying to see how many students want what. Yeah, and also something that we do here, like during the orientation, we kind of have students, they come in and we like at the very beginning of the cycle, we have them like download a Google Classroom application, their phones and smart devices, Google Docs, Google Drive. And if they kind of like, sometimes they would come, that was a long time ago when they like, oh, well, I can't find this document. I just tell them, okay, check on your drive or check, maybe you don't have any more storage. Maybe it's time to clean up. Yeah, so it's been going fine so far, but also like students' digital skills matter in like how they navigate Google Classroom or Google Docs. Students, I've never like dared to have them create their own document, their own Google Doc. I do it for them, and I just share copies, and they kind of work to submit their assignments. Yeah, I'm still working on those skills. Like, yeah.
Naima, do you use email with them at all, or do you do, it's mostly Google Classroom, and that's how you communicate with people? And
Okay,
then
so we communicate in my class. We communicate
WhatsApp.
through through WhatsApp group. You could see here
I
my
saw that you had the WhatsApp on there. Yeah,
yes, and that's Google Voice number, not even my personal. Yeah.
got it.
Yeah, so that's how we communicate. But we also like Google Classroom makes it easier to kind of stay together in one place, and if you have any announcements, we share them there. Yeah, so yeah, I haven't tried. I think I tried Slide, but I use them as a hyperlink within Google Doc
Yes.
because I keep in mind my students' digital skills. I don't want to overwhelm them, but I also want them to learn something and build a routine. Yeah.
And I love that you talked about routine, because I think that's a big piece of, if you guys are familiar with the digital resilience ideas, one of them is that we use routines when we're
Yeah.
teaching in general, and now to think about
Yeah.
bringing that into a digital moment. So that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
And it's funny, some students are just like love using their phones, right? But others are probably each one of them has something like that they prefer to use. But right now, I mean, not right now, it's been a while since we tried and we created a digital class where students can come and can use those like big screen desktops and
Mhm.
can use mouse. Yeah, so they've been doing that for a while. Like credits to the team. Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much, Naima. Any
Thank
questions
you.
for Naima? I know a few other people are using Google Classroom, and I think some other folks are probably not using Google Classroom. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat or to ask Naima. I want to move us on to Lauren because she has a little bit of a time constraint. But that was fantastic, Naima. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you.
Oh, I
Alright.
like so Naima hit on something that I was going to talk about as well. I don't have the opportunity to use Google as much as I used to because I'm in a different place. Now that I'm doing We Speak New York with the library, since the lessons are already done, I don't really have a chance to add as much. But because my slides are already done and then I have quick access because of Google and that's what my presentation's about, with YouTube and Padlet, if something comes up while we're teaching the lesson, I will quickly access that by just opening up, my email is already open because as Sarah spoke about, with the We Speak lessons, they've shared that with our Drive. So I have all the We Speak lessons and the slides in my Google Drive. When I open it, I can click and go right to my own things and see their things at the same time. So that's really helpful. I'm going to share my screen and just turn off my camera so that I don't have too many things open because similar to you now, I probably have about 1,000 tabs open and I want to make sure that I stay focused. So my name is Lauren John. I teach currently right now. I work for Job Corps, but I also work for the library. I'm teaching We Speak, conversational classes. And the work that I'm going to show you is what I've used. I've used Google I was with the YMCA in the fall. So I'm just giving you a little bit of how I use it across the board. I made a quick slide because I want to remember what I have to say. The number one way that I use Google is for quick access. Because I was teaching at several libraries and then also at different places, between all the emails and the different, having access to all those things, I need a chance to open and get to my work right away. So I usually create my own Gmail address and with the same password, but I'll just change and add the name of wherever I work, including here. So where I work right now, I have no access to all the things that I've created. This is the weirdest thing ever. I'm looking at the door because this is where I am now. But they gave us a Google address and I have no access to a Drive. I've never experienced that before. But because I took these classes here, came to Google Club and I learned about it. What I've been able to do, if you look at the top, is I've been able to make myself a student in my class or make myself a teacher. And so I can have access to anything that I've made before. So the first thing I'll show you is my Google Classroom. I don't use Google Classroom here, but in the past, like at the YMCA, what I would do for an exit ticket or for quick access on the spot at the end of class, if we wanted to do a Kahoot or something like that, I didn't have their phone numbers, but I had their email address. I did it one time. I made them join the Google Classroom, and then I would share the information right away. Like, go ahead, it's in your email. They would open up their phones, and they, my beginners as well as the intermediate level could access the Kahoot or the Google Form. I used Google Form as an exit ticket one day. Like, we didn't have enough copies, and I thought, well, what's another way for me to use this? I didn't have enough books, and so I just typed up some of the questions and put it in there. And I did a jigsaw and had them share the little sheets of paper together, read a section, and then they had to answer at the end of the lesson the Google Form. And I put the Google Form. I'm sorry if I'm going fast. I'm just showing you. So we did citizens' rights. We were using citizens' books, but my class was incredibly huge in the fall. We didn't have enough, so I just covered the material, let them work in groups. I had envelopes with little pieces of the article, and then at the end of class, everyone had the access to this Google Form quiz on the Google Classroom page. And once you finished the quiz, you could go home. So it was only like 5 minutes early, but they still got the work done. We had a chance they had immediate access to their scores. They had a chance to watch the video if they didn't, which kind of reiterated what the lesson was about. And these questions came right out the book. These are the review questions. So I thought, as Sarah, not Sarah, but someone else just mentioned using YouTube. I think it was Naima. I am a big fan of YouTube. I never knew before joining these classes here that you can make a playlist. And so the best thing I have ever done, and you can see it at the top, this is what I'm using right now for this location, but to help my students review and also to help me have quick access, because again, working in, as an ESL teacher, you're working in different places. I can't organize like Sarah all the time, my folders. So I decided to create playlists with the different topics that, we teach about 10 topics. If I make a playlist for each topic, even under each email address, or just make myself, again, collaborate with myself or make myself a friend, or just share it and make it public, now all my students have access to it so they can see it. So we just did pronouns. When I give homework, we may have watched one of these videos on the playlist, like for pronouns. Students who are advanced, students who are beginners, they can watch, take a quiz, a video quiz where they can watch any of these things. And what I will do is I'm going to go to, don't be overwhelmed. It's going to look like a lot, but don't be overwhelmed. It's just an example. Because I've taught many classes, I went ahead and paid for Padlet because it was the best thing since sliced bread, since I learned about flash drives. This is the next best thing, because I honestly don't know where my flash drive is right now. But Google Drive and Padlet, we'll call it my drive. Those are my drives. So I create a class, just like Google Classroom. I use this as my like a bunch of folders or like my bulletin board. And what I will do for homework, I have a page open here. These are just all different Padlets for different topics. Another quick way for me to access all the work that I've done. So let's say right now we're studying pronouns. Here's a pronoun playlist with any video that I could pick and use for class. I watch the first two, and then when I give homework, and I'm just going to close it so it doesn't, it doesn't look like a lot. What I will use is Padlet, and for each place where I work, usually I'll make a Padlet page for the individual classes so they can have, while we're in class, especially if I have different level students, we have classwork, so everyone goes to the first column, or I can call it like beginning of class, work. Even if I don't do all of this, and keep in mind that this is the culmination of like January, February, March, or maybe September to November, but it's our place to work. So I'll put classwork, a beginning activity here. If we do group work, especially if I don't have enough papers or enough books, they can click on it and they can share. They use their phones because I don't always have computers, but all you need is one person in a group of 3 to have a phone to open this up and share it. And even if they can play it or hear it, if I'm having a technical difficulty, like right now where I need to leave the building, this has happened to me before. Even I was late for work or something, and I could send the Padlet page to them and say, start working on, the first column, your beginning of class work. For homework, what I usually tell them is, if it's blue, it's for you. If it's blue, do the review. So the review columns are blue, and that's where I put whatever we saw in class. Maybe somebody wasn't here, they can watch this video, they can do this worksheet. And then the playlist, usually what I'll do is I will link the playlist underneath. So for particular classes, if they needed to review nouns or verbs, whatever we studied, I would put that there. But I also use this as my planning. Again, sometimes I need quick access. And so having something like this ready when I do my lesson plan, or even while I'm doing it or in class, gives me quick access to the videos and worksheets and interactive things. I use Kahoot and Quizlet. I just discovered Wordwell in one of these Google groups that we had here, and I thought it was, again, one of the best things. So sometimes you're looking for a quick activity. If you use Ventures, my cheat sheet for Ventures, you can see right down here. I just downloaded the whole Ventures booklet, all the audio. So if I have one sheet, I can play the audio. I've used my phone when I didn't have a computer and just play the audio so they can do the Ventures activities. So Google Drive is just the best thing ever for me because, again, everything is here. They can see it. They can go back to it. And just like here where you see the comments, they can comment on the Padlet page just like we use Facebook or anything else. The Google form that I used for the exit quiz, again, I would put it in the homework section. They can click on it. It opens up. They take the quiz. They get the immediate score. And if they want to review on their own, you could embed the video there or it's on the page. The last thing, and I'm sorry again if I'm going fast. The last thing I wanted to share, so sorry, but the building closes like at 5 o'clock. So Google Classroom, Google Forms, Padlet pages, YouTube playlists. And the last thing I use it for is I like to use, when I was teaching like Naima, where we would create our own slides, I'll create a slide and allow students to add their own work. But what I've also done is use my phone or use WhatsApp to record songs for class to help the students remember, or like a mnemonic device or something like that, something to promote whatever we're doing in class. So I would include in the slideshow, and again, another quick way for me to cheat with my phone, to have my lesson here or something from the lesson, I'll like make a song. And so I use Google Drive because I don't have access to it here in the building. Use Google Drive where I created the songs to match whatever we're talking about. This song, if it opens up, is about employability. And so I created it using WhatsApp. I put in my Google Drive, and when we study employability and watch videos about that, the students, I have made different songs for collocations and things like that. They'll listen to the song as a listening exercise, and then they can write what they hear, or we can talk about it afterwards. So I'm going to end with this song because I know it's kind of fast, but hopefully you can hear it. I don't know if I'm sharing. Can I share audio? Is that all right? Share sound.
Yeah,
okay.
You should be able to share audio.
There you go. I hope you can hear that. Yes or no?
Yes.
I need to get a job. I need to keep a job. I need skills. Employability. Skills for you and me. To get a job, to keep a job. Employability. Employability. Skills for you and me. To get a job, to keep a job. Employability. Employability. Skills for you and me. To get a job, to keep a job. Employability. Hard skills that you can see. Soft skills, just qualities. Employability. Skills for you and me. Hard skills you can see. Soft skills, just qualities. Hard skills you can see. Soft skills, qualities. Hard skills can take a test where you can do your best. Soft skills you cannot measure, like leadership and pleasure. Working with others.
Okay, so I'm not going to bore you with the whole song, but you get the idea, the idea. And that was that beat to the music came from YouTube. I don't know if that's okay, but I had to think of a way to remember some of these concepts that I was learning for the first time. Somebody else mentioned work skills. I've ended up teaching work in finance and computer and technology, and I'm not that expert at all. Had it not been for these classes, I wouldn't be able to do any of this. So I try to create ways that I can remember. The Padlet page is also another way of kind of incorporating the gallery walk. I had not been able to do a gallery walk in quite some time, but it's another way for me to let students have quick access to post their comments. And, if they watch something, they can always write. But that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I'm sorry I went so fast, but I had so much I wanted to share, but I got to get out this building. Somebody had their hand up. I think it was Gary. Sure.
Yeah, Lauren, that was great. Now, these songs, did you make that? How do you
I
make
sure
these?
did. Because I didn't know, I had never heard the word employability when I started teaching. I know unemployment, and I was like, what? So I taught word forms, like the
How did you
suffixes.
make the song though?
On my phone, I put the TV on really loudly, sat on the couch, and looked for some music on YouTube, played the music in the background. And that's what I've done for most of those things. Yeah.
So that's your voice though.
Yes, sir. That's me.
So you just had the background music and you came up with your own words.
Yes, sir. I mean, and also as I was learning about employability, like I watched a YouTube video about it, and we had worksheets. I just took some words together. Like it's not, these are not special words. It's employability, skills for you and me. And it was a simple way to explain it to my students. And if we repeat it, like usually I had them say things along with me. It's repetition. So it worked,
Yeah, great
same
job.
thing for collocations and
I usually use original songs for various reasons, but that's a new
there's
one where you
more
do your own.
content out there now, but I hadn't found anything with jobs and work, or else I would have
Right.
looked
Yeah.
myself. And so, but there's a lot of
Lauren,
things now. But
You have quite a collection of songs that you've done, I believe.
yes, ma'am, I think I need to
Yeah.
make an album. But
Yeah, the adult ed.
So cool,
Wow.
Lauren. Really cool.
Very cool.
appreciate it. I'm going to connect on my phone. I don't want them to
Yes.
take me out of the building.
Understood.
Thank you so
Fine.
much, guys. Oh, any
Thank-
questions you can put in the chat, I'll answer.
Put them in the chat, and then if you guys, I'll in the next email, I'll just share all your email addresses, so you can always reply to each other in case you want to be in touch after the session, because
Perfect.
I think you're all hearing things that are kind of fun to know about.
We might even have a WhatsApp group. I think that might be easier, actually.
like
That
that
might
too.
be even easier.
Yeah.
Then we could test out our sharing of links on a WhatsApp group. We can work on that. Fantastic. So yeah, if you have questions for Lauren, do put them in the chat, or we'll create that WhatsApp group or whatever, and we'll have a way to communicate. Let's go move on. We have is Ivan here? I don't know that Ivan's here. I don't think so. Let's see. Next we had Nelson. Did you want to talk a little bit about the work that you've been doing?
Yeah, I can. Hold on.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm not sure if I missed like the idea of this
No, it's literally
workshop.
anything that you are doing that, the idea here is to show and tell. So if there's
Great.
been trying,
So
yeah.
So hi guys. So excuse me now. I'm sorry. So my name is Nelson Tuero. I'm the ADL at Workforce BX here in the Hunts Point section of the Bronx. We were formerly known as Project Hope, and I design all our classes here, and we try to follow the CFER, the Common European scale, where we teach A1, A2, C1, B1, and so on, right? We used to use a lot of We Speak content, but since a lot of it is like civic engagement minded content, we try to move away from that and teach like general ESL. And we were lucky that during the pandemic, so let me go backtrack. During the pandemic, before the pandemic, I had already taken some Google classes at FIT, but it was mostly geared to like learning Adobe Illustrator and this sort of thing, because naturally, I used to be a textile salesman, right? So I sold textile for about, I think, 14 years. And I have a master's degree in poetic theory, but I also had a TESOL certification from Teachers College. So apart from being a fabric salesman, I thought I was gonna go back to that. Like I was like, hey, screw this. I want a full-time job. I want insurance. I want a higher pay, this sort of thing. I'm gonna go back and get my bachelor's from FIT when I already had a transfer from FIT to City College. I got a bachelor's there and then a master's there. And I find myself in this place where I was like, okay, I want to go back, because it's like teaching wasn't, kind of like paying the bills, or it wasn't what I expected it to be. So I went there and I learned all these computer skills. And then all of a sudden I found myself saying, hey, I want to go back to teaching. So I said, instead of just abandoning teaching English, let me kind of get like an ESL certification and have my master's degree in English composition and advanced grammar, this sort of thing. and maybe I can find a full-time job, and which I did here. But what happened when I found this job here at the Learning Center for Urban Health Plan, I was teaching corporate English, like the vocational English. So when I came here, I needed to find some content that I could use. So I wasn't a big fan of We Speak, although I know it has its purposes. The population that we serve here they're kind of like residents, like American residents, like they have their residential cards, they've been in the country for several years, and We Speak wasn't communicating with them. Like we would get students to come in, but we weren't retaining them, right? So we came up with this strategy where I said, okay, Miguel is my director here, Miguel Calderon. He's not here today, but he was like, hey, create something that, you know, on your academic focuses. So if I could share here, we have permission, and then we don't have permission to divulge this information. So when you said recording, I was like, okay, as long as the recording stays within LAC, I can share the content that we have, but otherwise I can't really distribute it because
I can pause the recording because it's going to go out on our YouTube, but I can pause it right now, so I can do that.
Okay, fine. So if I can share here, so again, if you know, so we also use like Google Forms. I'm really big on Google Forms. I was using H5Ps when I was at home, but my subscription ran out, and I just still have my archive. I don't think I have enough time to share it, but let me see if I could just take a quick look at it, just so you can see here. So here is what, you know, this is what an H5P would look like. It takes a little bit of work to kind of like get through it, but it's pretty easy, right? The student can just respond and submit the answers, and then it has a digital, it's the answers are already is, so it's digitally corrected, and then the student gets an email. If not, if they're more familiar with Google Forms, you guys know the deal with Google Forms. If you want to share, you can either attach them here on the email, or you can just copy the hyperlink and share. We have tests for every unit, and you know, that's how we kind of like manage our program, and that's how we kind of like try to educate our students by using like a system that kind of is easy for them to follow. So like if they miss a day or two, they can access our Google Classroom and get their content in the Google Classroom. And you know, so again, we're big on scaffolding, and that's what we try to do here.
So Nelson, my one big question for you is how much professional development do you have to do with your teachers so they feel comfortable using all these tools?
So our instructors, we ask them before we interview them if they have experience in it with Google Classroom. And what we try to do now, this is something that we're trying to implement now for like the summer, is to bring them all up to speed, because if we hire instructors in the middle of the year, it's difficult to you know, run through all the squares. But we try to hold monthly meetings. It's a lot for them to cover, but again, they're slowly learning it, and then, you know, they have me to go over it with them, to like coach them and give them PDs. I try to give a PD every month, if possible, if not every other month. But our instructors have Google Classroom experience, so that's like really helpful to us.
Yeah, fantastic. Anybody else have any questions for Nelson?
And the majority of students they download the Google app and the Google Classroom app, so they have access to it on their phones.
Right.
The majority of students do use Google, use their phones to access Google Apps, and all of our content is mobile accessible. So they don't get like a warped screen, and it's difficult for them to get on there. We use Adobe Fill and Sign, which is easy for them. So we give them handouts explaining the rules, and yeah.
Fantastic. So we're just about out of time. Anybody have any last questions for Nelson? And Lauren asks Nelson, where do you work? What's the name of your school again, your program?
Hi, Lauren. So my details are at the top. I'm at Workforce BX. We are not a school. We're a storefront academic center. We're hoping that we're going to expand into a larger facility in the future, but that is to, you know, we're still waiting on that news. Oh, Lauren, you love Woodward videos, I see here. Great. Yeah, they're the best.
Okay, so this was
Yeah.
I just popped your stuff back in there.
Thank
so
you,
that- in
thank you,
case you
thank
missed it
you.
earlier. So we're done for today. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for all of you who shared and for all of you who had questions. And we want to do more of this. So maybe we can put in a show and tell, at least one show and tell every session. So again, I will send you the link to this recording, and I'll remind you where to get to our blog so you can get back to any of this content. And our next meeting is our last meeting for this fiscal year, and it will be an opportunity to kind of start thinking through maybe something you want to work on over the summer. So some of the ideas that came out today maybe are things you want to think about doing. But thank you again so much, and thank you everybody for being here today. And we will. I look forward.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, it was great listening to you all, and thank you for having patience listening to me. Thank you,
Oh,
guys.
you were fantastic. Thank you, Nelson.
No,
Thank you, Nell, and everyone.
Gary,
Thank you very
I put my
much.
number in there, Gary.
no, I was gonna ask now, when's the
Oh.
next session? When's the last one?
The last session is June 25th.
Oh, that's too late. Okay. All right.
Are you
Yeah.
you're done with your program by then?
Yeah.
You can always reach out to me before then if you have questions or whatever, but that'll be our last session. Then we'll start up probably September, October, usually is when we start again.
All right.
Yes, Jessica Lynn.
So I have a quick question for you. Is there any other, because I feel like most of the LAC, the workshops that you guys do, I'm actively teaching
Yes.
3 different tracks. So
That's
is
fine.
there like a resource that you can give me? Like I'm pretty knowledgeable with Google, but I noticed a lot of my students are more advanced, and what I'm giving them, they're like, Ms. Joss, come on, I already know this. So is there any resources you could give me that I can give them and that I can learn myself?
I mean, I think the fact that you're using the applied digital skills is huge. What we this year are kind of the themes of each of our sessions came from the certificate for educators, the Google certificate level 1 for educators. And I don't know that that is so helpful for you if you're thinking about the skills for your learners. I think for learners, one of the things to think about a little bit, and maybe we'll try and do some more work around this, is identifying the skills that they want. So there's a lot of, so it doesn't have to be Google always, right? The Google, I think we focus on Google partially because it is free to use. It is something that works across all devices. And so we feel like, you know, if people are learning those skills, they're going to have somewhat transferable skills to other tools. But there are other tools out there that are also really good to use. And
Yeah, definitely. I have them doing typing.com
fantastic.
because I realized that they all know how to text, but
Yeah.
they don't know how to type on a computer, and they find it amazing. So when they fly through the digital skills, I have them doing typing classes,
That's
and
fantastic.
I got my program to approve me to get them certified in American typing.
Oh, that's
So
great.
it gets them, you know, really excited. But I was wondering if you have any resources, if you could send them my way, because they're getting smarter, which is
Yes.
great,
Yes.
but I can't keep up.
Yes, absolutely. I will put some thought together. We definitely have some stuff on our website. I do think that the digital resilience in the American workforce is sort of this general idea of not just teaching the specific skills, but with the idea that, like, yeah, tomorrow they come back to the website and it's changed. Do they feel like they have the ability to figure out what's going on next? But I'll put some stuff together for you, Jessica Lynn, and we'll share it out.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, talking to Lauren, I cover everything. Mock interviews. We're
Fantastic.
going back into mock interviews. We do
Oh.
self-budgeting, paycheck budgeting. We just finished up how to search for an Indeed job and how to break down, is it a viable job, what certifications I need to get for it to get that job. So
Wow.
I think I've
You are-
exhausted everything.
Yeah, you're
I
doing an
have.
amazing job. Michael, thank you for reminding me. I'm going to put the survey in the chat, but I'll send that out to now.
Thank you, Nell.
But thank you very much, Jessica Lynn. It sounds like you're doing amazing work, so that's very exciting.
Thank you. I'm trying so hard.
Yes. All right,
Thank you,
take
guys. Have a
care,
great
everybody, and I look forward to seeing most of you in June. And if not, again, feel free to reach out anytime, but this was fantastic.